This is Fornication and Lust. So long ago, when I was sitting on this couch, and the Holy Spirit of God came to me himself and said, Franklin, and I chronicled this in, I believe, my first testimony, where he said, Franklin, I'm going to show you your life. And as I'm watching each frame, and they're actual frames like movie clips, I'm watching myself move and interact and do things in these clips as they flash before my eyes. It's like that literal saying, my life flashed before my eyes. It was going fast. In the natural, it was like, whoop, that fast. But in the spirit, it was going really slow. And when he got to this one section, it's like it slowed down even more. And he emphasized this one section, and he said, in Franklin, and his voice changed. It got stern. It sounded like it was like a father chastising a child. And he said, and this I do not like. When he said that sentence, when I think about the way he said, it takes me back into that moment, and it's more terrifying than my hell testimony, if you can imagine. It's terrifying when I understood the paragraph of information he was downloading from that one sentence into my mind. When he said, and that I do not like. I'm going to be so honest with you. I understood in that moment. He said, Franklin, this is when God speaks to you, he speaks to you in a sentence. It's not very long, but there's so much information that's downloaded once he finishes. And he said, Franklin, if I were to end your life right now, there's a great possibility or probability you're going to go to hell based off of this alone. This is something you never repented for. This is something that you are doing willingly, and you refuse to stop. This is something that you have rationalized in your mind to be normal. And he said, this is the way you're living your life. And in the spirit, he goes, Franklin, I can show you what you look like. It's okay. Vision was over. That's the moment I sat there and I said, what, Franklin, what are you doing? I said, Franklin, what are you doing? I said, stop. It was like I called a timeout, and everything went silent after he said what he said to me. After all, this was flooding in my brain, and I'm like, what, huh? Timeout. The Holy Spirit revisited that moment. He said, Franklin, I want to talk to you about a couple of things in regards to the lust that you worship. He said, Franklin, when you're engaged in fornication, sex before marriage, when you're looking at things online in your cell phone, we're talking about porn. Let's just go ahead and say it. That includes masturbation. Anything that God feels you're doing, which is considered sexual immorality, he said, Franklin, you have rationalized it in your mind to be a normal thing. Having a healthy sex life in a relationship, even down to looking at stuff on your cell phone. He says, Franklin, you don't do that. He said, Franklin, I'm going to show you some things. And he showed me something. Because one of my subscribers was like, Franklin, and I saw a lot of comments saying, Franklin, can you pray for me? I struggle with this. And the question was posed, Franklin, do you struggle with this? And I said, you know what? I struggle with it every day, but I don't think about it. It will forever be a part of me because it's a memory. Anything emotional, anything, a feeling will forever be a part of you. Cigarette smoking will forever be a part of me because I can remember when I smoked how I felt. I can remember when I was in the midst of fornication and temptation, how it felt. So it's like physically, I don't suffer from it, or I don't struggle with it, but spiritually I do. That's how I should say it. Well, what got you to this point where physically in the natural, I do not struggle with it? The moment God spoke to me, he said, Franklin, he said, I do not like. And when I understood he was meaning, if I end your life right now, you're going to hell. In the story. That's where you're going. I said, oh, wow. I said, I don't understand. I don't understand. Holy Spirit said, Franklin, I'm going to show you something. I was in a relationship with a woman. And He said, I'm going to show you exactly what was going on in the room. It was like he was standing next to me. I'm standing here. Franklin is fornicating. I'm trying to say it the right way without being graphic, but he's fornicating. I can see Franklin. But it was like everything was blurred out. I couldn't see. It's like we weren't looking at it. We weren't looking at it like high definition, but everything was blurred. Me and the woman were blurred. The girlfriend I was dating at the time, we're blurred out. All of a sudden, I hear this voice in the corner of the room. I turn and look. I see this demon. He was talking to a smaller demon. I looked dead at him, and it was like he didn't know we were in the room. He said, Franklin, that's the demon of lust. He says, when you're fornicating and you're having sex before marriage, he says, you're worshiping the demon of lust. And he said, listen to what he says. Then all of a sudden I look, and he steps out of that corner. When I looked at him, he did not reflect light. He was just so evil, he absorbed the light. I couldn't make out none of his features because you just couldn't, no light shined or bounced off of him so you could see his features. It was just a motion of movement. It was just a black figure. You could see an arm, you could see, it was weird. It was like you're looking into nothing. And you see this little twinkle which represented his eyes, but everything else was black. You couldn't make him out. So he steps forward and he says these words, and I'll never forget him. He said, God, look at your son here. Look at him. Look at Franklin, worshiping me and doesn't know it. He said, God, you cast me out of heaven because I refuse to serve this creature. That's when I understood this was a fallen angel. And I kept listening to him and I said, that's a fallen angel. And he goes, God, look at this disgusting creature. He was talking about me as if I were some sort of slug, disgusting creature. I have never heard such hatred being spoken about a person it was supernatural hatred. He was speaking about me and he was targeting me specifically. And he kept saying, look at him. Look at your son. Look at your son. He's not serving you. That's not in your word. He goes, that's it. Now, what the Holy Spirit told me was, he said, Franklin, fornication before marriage is in the devil's Bible. It's something he condones. It's something that he says, it's okay. Don't feel guilty about it. Enjoy it. Have as much of it as you want. He said, Franklin, that's what's promoted in his Bible. That is not promoted in the Lord's Bible. So he was like, inherently, you're doing something that the devil condones, not God. So I'm still watching. And oh my God, this demon is talking pure crazy to God. It was supernatural anger I have never seen or heard in my life. And this demon was saying, God, this is what you call your son. This is what you wanted me to serve. This disgusting creature. Watch this. And then he goes, Franklin, do this. In my mind, I remembered that day and what was going on. It was like, oh, let me try this, or let me try this. Let me spice it up and try this. Let me spice it up and try this. And that's how I thought in that moment. But the demon of lust was saying, do this, Franklin, do this, do this. And he said it so angrily and so hatefully. And I just saw this blur of a body of Franklin just going right along doing it. And I was sitting and looking at myself and I felt so ashamed. I literally was like, Franklin, it was like a WTF are you doing? And I'm just looking at myself and I'm looking at him and I'm constantly just going just like this. And he's like, do this, do this. And he's saying, God, he was trying to anger God. He was saying some stuff that I'm not going to repeat. He was talking straight crazy to God, calling him all sorts of names. He was trying to, and the Holy Spirit said, Franklin, he was trying to anger God, to take his anger out on you on the spot. He was trying to get God to strike you with a lightning bolt or something. With something. That's it. I had enough. And this is when he said something I would never forget. This is the reason I'm telling his testimony, because it has nothing to do with what I was doing. It has everything to do with what he just said, what he just said. What I'm going to tell you what he just said. He's staring at me and he says, God, he said, it's not fair. He said, I got cast out of heaven because I didn't want to serve this disgusting creature. And he said, and look what he's doing. He said, he deserves to go to hell and be in hell with me. It's not fair. He's no better than me. He's no better than I am. And then he backs up into the corner and he stands there and he starts talking to this little demon still. It's like, look at this disgusting thing named Franklin. And I get cast. And I sat there and I said, oh my God. He basically said, I deserve to be in hell. And with him, it wasn't fair. And you know what? The craziest thing was, he was right. It was like, Franklin, if God ended your life right now, let's say you just have a heart attack, boom, and you fall in bed. Bop. He says, where do you think you're going to go? What do you think the conversation is going to be when you wake up and you blink your eyes and you stand before God's throne? What do you think the conversation is going to be at that moment in time? As your spirit rises out of your body and you look at yourself, and then all of a sudden the portal opens up and then you walk in that portal. And you're standing wherever you are in the spirit, waiting to go before God. What do you think that conversation is going to be like? And I'll never forget that day. I will never forget that vision. It was the scariest vision. It was one of the scariest I have ever heard, because it was like when I was inside of it, it was like I was actually like, God, please don't, because I understood what he was doing. It was a distant memory, but in the vision, it was so real. It was like it could actually happen. God can be like, you know what? That's enough. I had enough of this. You be quiet. Because what it was the demon knew God doesn't double judge. He doesn't double punish. That demon knew his punishment was coming at the end of time. So he could say whatever he wanted. And God was still he knew his punishment was coming. God's not going to punish him on the spot for what he was saying. But he can probably anger God. That's what his whole attempt was to do, was to anger him, to take his anger out on me. His punishment has already been determined and set in stone. And I will never forget that moment when he showed me what was in the room and what it said about me in my life, and how it deserved to be in hell along with him, and how it wasn't fair. And the Holy Spirit said, Franklin, God is a righteous God and he is fair. And he says, I want you to remember what he said to you. In my either first or second testimony, God said to me, I think it was my first one, I have sent people to hell for the same things you are doing, and it's not fair to them. God is even fair to those he cast in hell. So when this demon said, it's not fair, I knew God is fair. So it was going to be a conversation of fair when it came to sex before marriage and lust. And I come to learn that, Franklin, when you're lusting,